Hello and welcome to 4 Quick Cues Book Talk with Enfys. This is the live interview chat show where I ask pagan authors 4 quick questions determined by a roll of the dice. If you have any questions for our guest, please pop them into the comments and we will circle around to them at the end. I'm your host, Enfys Book of MajorRQueerna.com. Joining me today is Diana Rajchel, she, they pronouns, author of Urban Magick, A Guide for the City Witch, which I have right here, and also Hex Twisting, Counter Magick Spells for the Irritated Witch. She's an animistic witch and spirit worker who's walked through and out of many paths to get where she's at now. She is passionate and about creating discernment and balance between many things viewed as oppositional that are not: science and medicine, science and magic, environmentalism and urban life, and much more. Diana, thank you for joining me today.
Hi, I am really excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. We got to meet briefly at Paganicon in Minneapolis, or I think I'm not pronouncing it right. Paganicon? I think most people do more the nasal thing there.
Paganicon, I think.
Yeah. That's how I pronounced it, but then I heard different variations when I was there. Anyway, it was a good conference. It was very nice to meet you and get those 2 books signed. So yay. I also just finished reading Hex Twisting and posted a review on Goodreads and Amazon. So if people want to see my thoughts, feel free. Spoiler alert, I loved it. So one of the new traditions with this show is I ask you to name our D20, which today is kind of an interesting swirl of burgundy and interesting greens and blues. So I'm going to try to hold that up so people can see. So what would you like to name our dice today, Diana?
Opal.
Opal. I love it. All right. Opal, are you ready to be interviewed, Diana, by Opal?
Well, yes. All right, Opal.
All right, do your worst. We start with question number 9.
Okay.
Is there okay, I swear I didn't pick this one specifically for you. Is there another magical or pagan author who leaves you in awe?
Ivo Dominguez Jr. A lot of his work, he is very I joke that I want to be him when I grow up. He's just so classy about everything. I recently finished his book Spirit Speak, and it is and we have I've had the pleasure of meeting him and interacting with him on more than one occasion. And I don't study with his tradition, so I do things very separately, but there were so many things in Spirit Speak that were things I'd been finding out on my own, and there was so much recognition. It is depth work, and it is everything he does comes from a place of depth and sincerity and commitment, and he manages to do it without getting involved in the showmanship side of this business, which I am also in absolute awe of, because it is so hard not to get sucked in. It is so hard to stay, okay, here's the path, here's the message, here's my calling. And we don't talk enough about the calling part of this period, which is one of the reasons I think that there is such a big mess around cultural appropriation and whether or not you should go trad or other things, is nobody talks about the calling part anymore. And he has stayed true to all of what he is. And so, yeah, out of anyone, that is who I would name as the person that absolute awe.
Yeah. As I was reading Hex Twisting, it reminded me of a lot of the parts of Spirit Speak as well, because that's one I've read too. And I'm like, yep, this is a good sort of complement to that book. There's a lot of stuff in here that matches what's in there, but also has very specific and unique workings. So I thought.
And Hex Twisting, I wrote after I read Spirit Speak after I wrote Hex Twisting. So there was a lot of, whoa, okay. It's very affirming when there's somebody that you really respect who has in some way experienced that too. Yeah. And while his approach may be very, very different because I cuss at things more, but it was there, and it can be so validating, especially when my way of learning it was to basically just plow through it and go, okay, what just happened over and over and over.
That's awesome. Really glad that, that's someone who always leaves me in awe too, especially because his writing, every time I read his books, I get more out of them. There's stuff that slips past the filter the first time, and then I'm like, wow, I don't remember reading that before. Wow, that actually makes so much sense now. So they're books that you get so much more out of every time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. All right, question 1 down. Opal, give us question 2 at the same exact number. No, we're not going to ask the same one twice. All right, question 7. What is something you wish other magical or pagan authors would do less?
Get in stupid fights on the internet, especially about things that come down to petty ego issues. And I'm not going to name names or point. Honestly, all I have to do is wait 5 minutes and somebody's going to do it, so I don't need to. But I would love it if people had a little more discernment to go, okay, maybe this is one where just letting this person go and I'll just stay in my lane. And especially like the big fight about when we were talking about this a little bit earlier, is who gets to say what witchcraft is? If everyone would just kind of graciously accede to the fact that you personally don't, all of us don't, there would be a lot more time actually figuring things out that are helpful, and a lot less time trying to see who's got the loudest voice and the biggest following.
Yeah. Big mood on that.
Yeah.
It is one of those things that, being a new author, seeing how things go on and seeing there are different sort of factions and whatnot, and trying to stay clear of that. Definitely.
And some of it's just old-fashioned dopamine bursts from gossip addiction, and that just gets so tired.
Yeah, definitely. Let's try for the third question. You're halfway down. Question 6. Oh, you're going to like this one, although I'll let you choose your topic on it since you have 2 very recent books. If you had a megaphone to broadcast a 1-sentence message about your subject matter to the whole world, what would it be?
Living in cities is not the Thunderdome.
Okay, you got to say more on that.
So, and this is one of the reasons I wrote Urban Magick and there are so many people that I'm starting to get a response to Urban Magick like a lot of theistic Satanists get, where it's oh, you do that? And all that shows you is that somebody has made no effort whatsoever to educate themselves beyond like a very basic level. And this isn't just magic practitioners, this is everyone, is urban design. It was the first intentional community, the first group magical project that led to magical organization and ritual lodges, was building cities. In fact, many of the structures that traditional religions use come from urban design.
Interesting. I never thought of it that way.
And on top of that, and this is the one where like I'm laughing about it now, but it's actually very painful to me, because I'm like, okay, the world is burning and you still want to you're still calling living in the suburbs being close to nature. You're still, okay, you want to live on a farm. Do you know how much work it actually takes to live on a farm and how bad that is for the environment unless you're using horticulture methods? and one is completely ignoring that you are never separate from nature, no matter where you are. I'm an animist. Do you think I ever get a break?
Everything
I'm an animist
talks.
who really likes 5-star hotels, and things will still find me in 5-star hotels. And sometimes it's the goddamn cotton in the pillows. You never know. It's this false dichotomy, and it actually goes pretty deep, because the urban and rural divide is the way people that want to stay in power, that are using power abusively, keep people divided against each other. And so as long as magical people are buying into looking down their noses at cities, or assuming that city people are looking down their noses at them when they are not, and I've seen far more condescending behavior from country people than city people about who lives where, much more condescending, and almost always poorly informed. And it's not always because they're uneducated. It's frequently not. It's just what they're choosing to pay attention to. Because confirmation bias is a wicked, wicked demon. Except I don't want to insult demons. So it's just a wicked thing. It is, we all need each other. And the better you understand your cities, the better you will be able to work with what's around you wherever you are. And if you stop looking for the us versus them, you're going to find a whole world of allies and a whole world of improved ability to survive. But you have to realize that your attitude is a prejudice. You have to realize you are looking through this other thing with prejudice and not with truth. Because like when you live in a city, you face your shadows right away. You have to see homeless people. There are homeless people in rural areas, there are homeless people in suburbs, but they get hidden more easily. You have to deal with your response of disgust and recognize that your disgust is the shadow you need to confront. There's just less hiding in cities. There's more getting called out in cities. And I know now that I'm in Kalamazoo more often, it's a very different culture because it's a smaller city. And so I have been working both with a city shop as a tarot reader and as one that's like located out in the country that the owner also has. And having to adjust to the 1950s of the rural place, which is just specific to that small town. Not all the small towns around here are like that. And it is a lot of the original rural urban divide thinking. And how you can see how some of this rural thinking, it isn't in touch with nature, it's in touch with keeping certain perceived as invaders out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have quite a lot to say about that, but yeah, cities are not the Thunderdome.
Except a Trader Joe's parking lot is pretty Mad Maxian, I have to say.
Costco in San Francisco is the worst.
Mm.
Oh, go on a Saturday. Oh, good God.
Oh, yeah. We have a Costco near me and it's pretty crazy, but like pretty congested there, I should say. But yeah, the Trader Joe's across from it, the parking lot is really scary.
For a place meant to attract hippies, they're pretty vicious.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like Trader Joe's kind of scares me. Like I'm just gonna just, stick with my local grocery store where it's a little less terrifying.
Yeah. I don't know why it is that every single place a Trader Joe's goes, the parking lot has to be just terrifying every time.
Maybe this is the thing. It's like, the Canadians use the geese to get out their aggression. This is where the hippies put it. It's just all in that parking lot. Like something like the Trader Joe's of Gregor just like sucks out the hippie aggression, or their hangry moments and just puts it all in the parking lot.
So it's basically a spiritual leech.
Yep. For hippie aggression. So this way they can go, I'm love and light all the time. Oh no, everybody has that shit and it goes somewhere. Yours goes to the Trader Joe's parking lot.
Everyone for itself in the Trader Joe's parking lot.
Very much so.
All right, we've got one more question. Opal, hopefully you are amused by all of this. Wow, they all stayed in the single digits today. Question 8. Parallel to one from earlier, what's something you wish other magical or pagan authors would do more?
Experiment, try new things. I am seeing a lot more of that. So I'm actually getting what I want, which is something that I've been lamenting since the 90s, because I was the kid that read everything in the occult section in the university library, because I was bored that summer and it was that or continue to vandalize my ex-boyfriend's truck. I chose reading over violence after a while. I just messed with his head by just being where he could see me. But there does, and I see a lot of this, there's a lot of no, it's supposed to be this way. And if from reading Hex Twisting that there's a lot of things where, okay, there's a lot of no, it's supposed to be this way, except I just did the thing differently and it worked. And I have like data, you can't do empirical data in magic. I wish we could. But I have enough data to go, okay, so maybe those rules weren't so strict after all. Because I'm a big person for advancements and moving forward and seeing what else we can do. I mean, that is part of the, oh yeah, that was flammable thing that I was telling you about. But it's also really helpful because it means that there may be certain things you can do to interact with the natural world and the multiple worlds that don't take quite as much effort if you're just willing to try doing them a different way. Yeah, and for example, house warding is a lot easier when the woods actually like you. So, or okay, you have this demon coming at me, I could do the Christian thing and grab the cross or burn some asafoetida and drive everyone out, or I could go, what's this about? Do you need a sandwich? It's a different approach.
Are you just hangry?
Yeah, and there's been a couple times that's really been it. So And I think that part of that is there isn't really a way to communicate in books, that when you get to a certain level on a magical path, a huge skill you have to cultivate is learning how to sit with your discomfort. Like if you are comfortable in your magic, you are probably not developing further.
Yeah.
And it is dealing with discomfort, and maybe the discomfort of this is totally wrong, and this might, we're queer, we have to worry about the people that have belief sets that are very uncomfortable for us because they're about not letting us exist. That, as opposed to you are, a spirit that thinks about the world in a way very different from I do. It doesn't mean you're harmful, but that does mean that I have to be a little bit creeped out by you to have this conversation.
Yeah.
And learning to discern between those as well, since it can be a very similar feeling.
Yeah. Is it the being that has the creepiness, or is it coming from inside me, is always one of those sort of tricks to figure out. Especially if you're an empath, it can be really hard to tell.
And there's a reason I do empath trainings, and part of that is learning the filters. Well, there is also because I'm an animist and an empath, and the other things is, are you thinking about eating me? Because that's a valid thing you have to think about as an animist, is are you just like planning on eating me? Because that needs to wait.
Give me some time first. I have to, I'm not a good meal just yet, kind of do
or I bite back.
The fairy tale method. Yeah, or I bite back. Excellent. Well, that's our 4 questions. At this point, I'm going to check the chat on Facebook Live to see if we have any questions from the audience. And then while I do that, if you can tell folks about your books or events or anything that you'd like the audience to know about, that'd be great.
Okay. Hi, Urban Magick and Hex Twisting are out. I know people keep asking me for my next book, and right now I'm doing a very important thing we don't talk about that writers need to do, and I am resting. So I'm working my summer contracts for Llewellyn, and actually trying to just kind of get my brain back after a hellacious 9 years. And I do have some summer articles with Llewellyn, potentially one with Witch's Almanac with Weiser. And beyond that, I am mostly just working on my house. I am teaching classes with Wicked Grounds in San Francisco. I am part of their online magic school. So next month, we're going to level 3 of my empath training, which is complex cord cutting. So I've been developing a series of trainings for empaths so that we can improve our boundaries before we start doing it on purpose. So it can be a thing you can do instead of a condition you live with. And that has been where a lot of my stuff has been going. So if you check my Facebook author page, you can find all the events that I'm doing with Wicked Grounds this summer. I am also going to be at Witches Fest for the online portion. I will be teaching a class on hex twisting, and I will also be teaching an Urban Magick 101 class. And in both cases, no class I teach ever comes out the same way, because I always let the class drive what I teach with questions. So if you do your pre-registration,
let's just portmanteau that.
Registration, is right. If you do your pre-registration with that, you will have access to many Zoom classes and I don't know if they're going to archive them or how they're planning on doing it, but a lot of really good, unique speakers. I'm especially looking forward to seeing Clifford Hartley Lowe's work, because he's the Renaissance astrologer. He's got his own perspective on Kabbalah, but he's actually amazing and a really cool brain to pick.
Awesome.
So, and he will also be at Witches Fest since he's located in the New York area.
Nice. Well, I've dropped links to your Facebook, your Instagram, your Twitter, your website, your Medium, and links to where people can buy your books on Llewellyn and Amazon and Barnes & Noble, all in the chat here. We do have a question from the chat from Ben Stimpson saying, in your opinion, what unique needs does Urban Magick have that makes it different from magic in rural? What are the tool sets magic users need for urban versus rural spaces?
So I would say that's a really good question. So thank you. So one of the things is, because you are dealing with a higher population density, you do need to have more dampeners, because you usually are sharing some kind of boundary space with the neighbor. The other one is you need more fire extinguishers. Sometimes you are forced to do more things indoors. And so just on a practical level, you need to have the safety equipment. And I think that there is a certain amount of flexibility that is more required. So for example, one of the things is, I was known for like making my ancestors elaborate breakfast that had bacon. And my next door neighbor was Muslim. So at least during Ramadan, during the day, I just wouldn't cook that stuff. So at least you could get a break from the bacon smell. Since in the fasting practice, you're not even supposed to be smelling food, which can be very hard to control. So as part of respecting my neighbor and respecting some of the spirits that came in and out that were connected to my neighbors, I would adjust my practice so that it was not getting into their space. So ultimately being more aware and conscious of your boundaries and being more aware and conscious of your impact on others and their impact on you is an extremely important skill in urban magic.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Well, this concludes the show. Diana, thank you so much for having been here today. This was delightful. Just want to tell some folks about the upcoming guests as well. On June 29th, we have Jane Meredith, who has a book about embodied Kabbalah coming out very soon. So I'm really excited. I got to read it ahead of time. It's great. July 6th, we have Amy Blackthorn, who recently published Blackthorn's Protective Magic, a witch's guide to mental and physical self-defense. And July 27th, we have Victoria Rajchel, who's the author of various magical fiction series, including On the Knife's Edge, Voices of the Dead, and more. So I'm really excited for all of those. For those watching on Facebook, if you didn't catch the whole thing, you'll be able to see this pretty much right after, and it will be posted on YouTube. And if you're joining us on YouTube, thank you. And I hope everyone has a great day. Thanks for being here, Diana.
Thank you. This was really fun. Quick thing is I got to review Blackthorn's Protection Magic. It pairs really well with Hex Twisting.
Excellent. Excellent. That's on my TBR pile. So I look forward to reading that as well. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. Have a good night.